what we're dealing with is a really good topic. Proteins is being discussed a lot and mostly with a positive connotation. Ordinary people may not always have a very good understanding of what that is all about, but many people these days think it's something good. Something good for your body, good for your health. And that, as a point of departure, of course, also from a commercial perspective, is a good thing. We're dealing with something that people, as a point of departure, is something positive. And of course, the industry has realized that. We have been getting lots of new products coming on the market which claim something about their protein content. That it's enriched with protein, extra protein, twice as much protein or whatsoever. And this one here is from the Mintel database, which records new product launches. And this is just the number of products that have been launched with some kind of protein claim on them. We don't, unfortunately, have data beyond 2015, but I'm pretty sure it has still been rising. So there is a trend here, also in terms of the product development activities that the industry is engaging in. Protein is one thing, but we're talking today about plant-based proteins, right? And of course, we have another trend that has been going on for quite some time, which is a trend towards plant-based products. That is actually a complex matter which with different aspects in it. There's a health aspect that most people associate plant-based food with something positive, healthy, and are more skeptical because we have all these discussions about animal-based food. We have, of course, more recently, the environmental discussion, which is linked to the environmental impact of animal production, especially with regard to cattle, which has been feeding this one here. But this is a trend that has been starting much earlier, already 20 years ago. We had the first studies about things like what we could call meat skepticism. That people that are not vegetarians or vegans, but people who are just skeptical about meat and eat less meat. And if they do eat meat, they want to eat meat in a form which doesn't look like meat. And that has been a trend which has been going on for quite some time. So as a point of departure, this is a really good area to work with, also from a commercial perspective. No, we have a lot of conditions in place that should make it possible to develop and market some new products. So let's try to develop some new products and bring them on the market. It could be something like this one here. Nobody in the room has any stakes in this one, so it's safe for me to use that as an example. But it's obviously a product that is based on plant-based proteins, oats actually, and it's a chocolate chip and it looks very attractive. So those people who have been developing this product, when they were done and had this product, they were probably very proud and were sure this would be a success on the market. In other words, all this effort they have put into develop this product here. Now, when the product comes on the market and is in the supermarket, it looks like this here. And that is sort of the basic issue I'm talking about here. This product really, if you look at it like this here, this is a really exciting, interesting product. But when it comes on the market, it's one product among thousands of products. And somehow people, first of all, need to see it. They need to notice it. That's the very first thing. No? And then there are a number of other things. So if we, even with all these positive conditions in place here, what does it take if you have all the technology in place and all that is being solved and so on? We have the product, the physical product and the packaging and all that. What are the questions we need to deal with in order to make sure that the product actually will be a success even in such a crowded environment here? So I have formulated 5 questions that are related to that. Will the product stand out in the crowd? This is the crowd, right? Will the product stand out in the crowd? Does the product have benefits for the consumer that other products don't have? And what are these benefits? Can we communicate them? Can it compete with other products? And even if we get consumers to try the product, that means you buy it at least once, will they adopt it for regular use? Because that's in the end the real criterion for the success of a product like that one. So I'll say a few words about each of these 5 questions here. So if you start with the first one, will the product stand out in the crowd? The easy answer is, as a point of departure, no. Because that's what we see here, obviously, right? Unless we do something, the product does not stand out in the crowd. So we have to do something extra because consumers are already overwhelmed with all these products coming on the market. Consumers don't usually look around a lot when they shop. Most of the purchases are habitual. Most of the purchases are made very quickly. So all the conditions under which consumers make choices when they go shopping actually are not good for new products. As a point of departure, make it difficult for any new product to be even noticed by consumers. Of course, fortunately, a lot of things we can do about that. We can just make it more visible. We can do that with any product. It's not specific here for protein-based products. But we can make it more visible, but we can only do that in cooperation with retailers who can do things at the point of sale and place it in a way which is more visible and make small islands and things like that. We can do something with the packaging. Actually, the one I showed you was pretty nice. But we can do a lot of things with the packaging. But more importantly, we need some other channels to communicate about the product. We need to prepare people for the product so that they actually will be prepared for noticing it. If they've heard about it before and found it interesting, it's more likely they actually will notice it when it is in the shop. And that means we need to do some kind of communication. There's, of course, classical market communication, which is, of course, still important, but expensive and for the bigger companies. But we can do a lot of things with social media and influencers, and especially this type of product here, which has sort of a nutritional perspective in it. There are lots of these types of blogs and influencers and people and so on that can be used. And of course, that requires special skills to do it, but we can do it. Has a product unique benefits for the consumer? And if we talk about plant-based, protein-enriched products, of course, we think in terms of benefits based on the protein. However, from the consumer perspective, a product always has a bundle of benefits. And it's not enough that it has just one benefit linked to the protein. No, it needs to have a bundle of benefits that people find attractive. One way of looking at it is like this one. This is my personal view of how we can visualize food quality from the consumer perspective. That means there are 5 components. None of that is very surprising. We have, of course, a health part. That's where the type of products we are talking about, of course, have some strengths. But that's not enough. It's not enough that the product is healthy. The product also needs to have a good taste. Because for all we know, people are very, very rarely willing to compromise on taste just because of the health. So there also needs to be good taste. There is a convenience aspect, which has something to do with that it needs to fit into the overall meal pattern or be convenient to use as a snack or whatsoever. There is what we call authenticity, which is a bit of a fuzzy concept, but this has something to do with that people want products that are sort of real, unalienated, not spoiled, traditional, the real thing, not something sort of. And between these 4, we can have links and trade-offs. People may think because it is enriched with a plant-based protein, it may affect the taste. People may think that a product that has been enriched with something which is good for the health part makes it less authentic because it's an enriched product is somehow more artificial than a product that has the ingredients in it naturally. So we have relationships between these here, and surrounding all this one here is what I call the feel-good component. That has something to do with people just like some types of products and some types of producing products more than others. Most people like organic food for a variety of reasons, and sometimes they can't explain it. But people like it. Many people, we have this wave that people like gluten-free food. Most people have no idea what gluten is. But they still like gluten-free food because it gives them this feeling of doing something extra for themselves. and also distinguishing themselves a bit from other people who don't take to that extent care. So that's what I call the feel-good feeling. So we need to have all of that in the product. So when we develop a product based on one specific benefit, which may be health-based, we need to embed it in a bundle of other benefits so that the whole bundle will be attractive for people. If we have the benefits, can we communicate them? One thing, of course, we can communicate is on the packaging. Then we have all the other channels that I've just been mentioning that are equally important. The packaging, of course, is important because even if we also use these other channels, it has then the reminder function, oh, this is what I have heard about the product via other sources. This one here actually makes a pretty good job of communicating the benefits of the products. We have a whole range of nutrition claims up there. We have an extra protein nutrition claim down here. We have what we could call a taste and process claim. We have soft-baked protein cookie with chocolate-flavored chips. We have a catchy name, Battle Oaks, which may result in some emotional appeal. And then, of course, very important, what kind of product are we dealing with? It's protein product, right? But the carrier product, the physical product, the one people recognize, it's built into is a chocolate chip cookie. Most people like chocolate chip cookies, and it's an indulgence product. It's not, as a point of departure, a health product. So if you can make such a product at the same time being a healthier product, probably a good thing to do. What can we say about protein? Well, we can, of course, say it contains protein. That's a nutrition claim. And Maria has been compiling these ones here from the Mintel database. It comes in a lot of varieties. All of these do appear on products that are on the market. All of these, of course, only have an effect if people associate protein with something. Either they know what it is and what it does to the body, or at least they think it's good. Even though they may not know the details. Because once we want to explain how that is related to your health, then we come into the area of health claims, which is a sort of a minefield. Because health claims are highly regulated, and it's very limited what you're allowed to say. On the current list of approved health claims about protein, this is what you're allowed to say. That's it. So that is much more limited. So if you don't trust that people already think if you say something about protein, it's good enough. If you want to explain more, actually, it's a bit difficult. As part of the OATPRO project, several people in the room here have been doing focus groups in a number of European countries where people have been, among other things, discussing what they thought the functions of protein were, types of protein, and not least products with extra protein. And here are a few quotes. They're all from this publication here, which show some of the results. And one thing is people sort of appreciate the role of protein as something positive in the body. Right? When it comes to types of protein, of course, we have this positive connotation with regard to the plant-based, but then there's also this skepticism whether that's enough, whether you really can whether it's really okay to avoid animal-based proteins completely. And when it comes then to products with extra protein, then we meet a lot of skepticism. And it has something to do with what I showed you just a second ago with this authenticity aspect. As soon as we sort of add something, even though people understand it's with a good meaning, it's supposed to make the product, in this case here, get a better health profile, people get skeptical. I think then it's a special product only for people with special needs and that type of thing there. Also, actually, putting enrichment claims on products can have astonishing effects. This is from a study we did years ago in the Nordic countries about the effects of enrichment claims on products. Protein actually was not one of them. But otherwise, we had a range of different claims, range of different carrier products. And then we asked people to evaluate the products on expected taste, naturalness, healthiness, and attractiveness. And what the bars show is what difference does it make when a product without an enrichment claim has now an enrichment claim. How does that change people's perception of the product? And there are some interesting results here. People think if you put an enrichment claim on the product, people think it's less tasty, it's less natural, that may be the least surprising, overall less attractive, even a bit less healthy. It's not because people don't understand the claim. This is for the big mess. Well, this is based on a sample of 5,000 in the Nordic countries. Behind that, we have niches of consumers where it's opposite. No, we have always niches, niche segments in the market where people appreciate this and think this is good for me and I like it. But for the mass market, now we have this skepticism with regard to enrichments, which is mainly linked to the skepticism about the naturalness. And of course, the industry knows that. So if we have, this is not protein-based either, but it's still a nice example. This is a well-known Danish dairy manufacturer with a product with a health profile. We have a health claim down here. It's in small print. That also already suggests they were a bit skeptical whether that is really what makes the difference with regard to this product here. But it communicates healthiness in other ways. It says it's organic, because we know people think organic products are healthier. But what it dominates really is this picture here. This very healthy looking family and clear blue water, which is also maybe signals something like healthiness and so on. So we've been doing a study where we systematically looked at market communication with this type of thing. We varied the health claim, we varied process claims. It's organic, it's from a small company, it's that type of thing, and the picture. And the biggest, and then we measured how healthy people perceive the product is. The biggest impact on the perceived healthiness has a picture. And then whether it's organic or local, and then the health claim. So communicating a health property of a product only by claiming the ingredient and its function is not usually enough in order to make people believe that it's a healthy product. And then I mentioned when I went through this example here that the role of the carrier product here. Because we know that the same time of enrichment, depending on which product you put it into, leads to widely different views from the consumer. That's what we call the carrier ingredient match. Depending on whether people think the ingredient with which we enrich the product matches the carrier, people are positive. If they think it does not match, people are less positive. And there are a number of studies on that, none about protein, but the general principles are probably exactly the same. Now, this is an example. This is consumer acceptance. This is the carrier. This is the ingredient with which the products are enriched. If the highest bar here, if you enrich rye bread with fiber. And why is that? Because that's natural. Fiber is already in the rye bread. Adding more fiber is fine. People don't worry about that. But if you add fiber to a tuna salad, people don't like it. There's no naturalness in here. So the naturalness, the perceived naturalness is the most important part. There are also other things. If people are familiar, it has been on the market for some time, people get used to the combination. The expected taste, if you put fish oil into yogurt, people get skeptical. But it's very important to think about the thing that the thing you enrich with, in our case, plant-based protein, like oat protein, for example, which product you put it into, whether there is a fit, a perceived fit in the eyes of the consumer between the carrier product and the enrichment. Can it compete with other products? Well, in a way, I've already said that, right? It can compete if it not only has this health advantage, but also has this other bundle of benefits. In a way, I'm just repeating that this one here. This is from a big study we've been doing on drivers of food choice. This is how people think how things are related to each other. If it has a healthy ingredient, that is a protein enrichment. People, of course, think it's better for your health, which then think makes you live longer, comfort and relaxation, and so on. But it's very much linked to whether people think they will enjoy it, because enjoyment can support the healthiness. If you don't enjoy eating it, in the long run, people think it's not good for them, because then it's you have to force yourself doing it, and you probably won't eat it, and so on. There's also the convenience aspect. There's the feel-good aspect. It's just the same thing as before. And finally, will it be adopted for regular use? Because whether people try a new product once for the first time is a communication question largely. We need to make people interested enough that they think, I will give this one a try. But once they have tried it, things change, because now they experience the product, and that is, of course, mostly the taste, but also convenience aspects. And they may or may not like it. That will have a big impact on whether they want to buy it again. But that's only half of the story. The other half of the story is because we have now these concrete experiences, the more abstract benefits, the ones that only can be communicated, like the healthiness, need to struggle against those that can be experienced. So over time, there is a danger that the experience, like the taste, the convenience, crowds out the perceived healthiness of the product. So if you want people to keep on buying a product mainly for health reasons, you need to keep at reminding people this one is a healthy product. And make sure that the health aspects are kept alive in the minds of people, which again is a communication task. So these were the 5 questions here. And in order to deal with that, of course, one needs, or of course, in order to deal with that, the consequence is that we need to think about consumers in the process of working and developing this type of products, and somehow integrate them into the process, which is what we can call consumer-oriented product development. And this is actually what we've been trying to do also in these 2 projects here, where consumers were playing a role. Consumers can play 2 roles. We can use them as a source of ideas and basic knowledge that we then put into the product development process, or we can go one step further and try to bring them to the table and integrate them actually into the developing of new products. And then, of course, once the product appears the physical, then once we have physical product prototypes, we can and should test them with consumers. And Maria will, at the end of the morning, tell you how that has been done in the 2 projects here we are dealing with. That's what I wanted to tell you here as an introduction. Thank you for your attention.